Thanks for joining me on episode 472 of the Inspired Stewardship Podcast.
I'm Ryan Engelstad from Pop Psych 101. I encourage you to find health, and one way to be inspired to do that is by listening to this, the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, with my friend, Scott Mader.
Even if you don't exactly know what that destination looks like, it's a weird dichotomy where we are fully certain and yet truly holding on to the possibility of change and the possibility of pivoting and the possibility of continuing to move on and find out that the end destination looks a little different than what we pictured at the beginning. Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. If you truly desire to become the person who God wants you to be, then you must learn to use your time, your talent, and your treasures for your true calling. In the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, you will learn to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence so that you can impact the world. In today's Spiritual Foundation episode about impacting the world, I talk with you about why we often get our spirit out of alignment, why certainty and doubt are both parts of being in alignment, and how to recognize you may have part of your life out of alignment. Let's talk a little bit about spiritual alignment. You know, the truth is, whether you're a Christian, whether you consider yourself non-religious, whether you're a member of another faith, it really doesn't matter. I think we've all sensed times in our life where we just feel like our spirit, our being is out of alignment with who we're called to be and the impact we're supposed to be making. You know, that this is a thing that gets in the way of really making an impact for us. And I want to talk a little bit about clearing it out today. We often get our spirit out of alignment. How do you recognize that? How do you know when your spirit is out of alignment? You'll often sense physical symptoms, sometimes as bad as depression. Now, don't get me wrong. Again, remember, I'm not saying that all mental illness is a spiritual disease, but I am saying that spiritual conflict can actually give rise to both physical and mental symptoms. You can recognize it through things that you feel in your body and in your mind. You can begin to feel exhausted beyond belief, unable to sleep, unable to really wake, unable to just really ever recover any sort of rest. This is beyond just being tired because you had a bad night's sleep. This is chronic, continued levels of exhaustion deep down into your bone. You often feel it in your breathing, in your breath. You often feel it in disturbing how you breathe during the day. You find yourself catching your breath or sometimes even holding your breath as you go throughout the day. You can have difficulty concentrating and be irritable, almost to the extent of being angry just because of nothing. Everything seems to grate on your nerves. Everything seems to distract you and pull your attention away in a new direction. You begin to see these mental and physical symptoms show up time after time after time. Often it's good to step back and ask yourself, what's going on in my spiritual life? What is it about how I'm aligned with my calling that perhaps has gotten out of alignment? At this point, a lot of people begin to think, but I'm not even sure what my calling is. I'm not even sure what I'm supposed to be doing. I constantly have feelings of doubt around what it is I'm truly being called to do. And the truth is that certainty and doubt end up being flip sides of the same coin when it comes to having spiritual alignment. I don't think we ever get to a point of certainty where we know beyond knowing that we are doing forever the one thing that we are called to do from beginning of time until end. But what I do think is we can get comfortable with the feeling that we are in alignment with what we are being called to do today. We are in alignment with what we are being called to do right now. That we can begin to sense that there is a purpose in our life and we are living out at least what we can see of that purpose right now. That we don't have to know everything to be certain about the now. It's this level of doubt about the future, but being comfortable with that doubt because you have faith that the path you're on is going somewhere, and that somewhere is somewhere you're supposed to go, even if you don't exactly know what that destination looks like. It's a weird dichotomy where we are fully certain and yet truly holding on to the possibility of change and the possibility of pivoting and the possibility of continuing to move on and find out that the end destination looks a little different than what we pictured at the beginning. When you feel these feelings and you begin to recognize that you're out of alignment with your calling because you're not able to do the things that you're supposed to do, what you can begin to do is focus on the areas that we talk about. Look at your time. Look at your talent, your being, what you're able to do, and look at your money. And begin to examine how those three areas can show you that there is a spiritual misalignment in your life. And then what you can begin to do is work on those areas to get them back into alignment. We're going to talk a little bit about recognizing and what to do about having your time, your talent, or your treasures out of alignment for the rest of this week. Thanks for listening. Thanks so much for listening to the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. As a subscriber and listener, we challenge you to not just sit back and passively listen, but act on what you've heard and find a way to live your calling. If you enjoyed this episode, do me a favor. Go over to facebook.com/inspired stewardship and like our Facebook page and mark it that you'd like to get notifications from us so that we can connect with you on Facebook and make sure that we're serving you to the best of our abilities with time and tips there. Until next time, invest your time, your talent, and your treasures. Develop your influence and impact the world.